All right, welcome back. Baker Mayfield, still Cleveland Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. This is interesting. Has any team ever had so much money tied up in this quarterback situation at one time on the cap? We know it's temporary. The Browns are going to do something, either trade Baker for a bag of marbles and a couple of footballs, or release him or something. Something's going to happen. But, Baker Mayfield's not going to be a Browns quarterback for long. But right now, they got 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and one of them has a $230 million contract. But I just want to say, before we get to Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic, one of the best football writers in the country, we're going to check in with him in just a couple of minutes. But I want to make sure that we don't miss Baker Mayfield. Now, this may be, I told you, it's my hometown, right? Akron, Ohio. Browns, the Guardians, when I was rooting for them, they were the Cleveland Indians, now the Cleveland Guardians. The Cavaliers know this area, love this area. They're very thankful that I was able to be raised in an area like that. Got a lot of love for the Midwest and Akron and Cleveland in particular. So when I say there's a legacy for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, you probably want to laugh if you're not from there, right? Like, what? Okay, what's his legacy? He's got a legacy, but he does. And so but before I tell you what it is, I want to advise the Cleveland Browns. This is for free. Y'all pay people for this. You don't pay me for this kind of advice, but I'm going to give it to you for free. Don't mention him again. Don't mention Baker Mayfield. Don't whisper about Baker Mayfield. Don't drop dimes about him. Don't say anything else. Don't say anything else about Baker Mayfield, because you've lost the moral high ground that you're standing on. You can't say he talks too much. You can't say he's immature. You can't say he didn't get it right. Like, stop. And as a matter of fact, not just Baker, don't say it about any other player. You got nothing to say about Odell Beckham Jr.? Nothing. Because you gave that all away. Maybe forever. This administration, maybe forever. This ownership, maybe forever. But at least for the next couple of years. But Baker Mayfield does have a legacy, and I was very happy to hear Joe Thomas get into it a bit earlier today on the Dan Patrick Show. Here's Joe Thomas.
There's a lot of defenders of Baker. There's a lot of fans of Baker for what he did for this franchise. I mean, my last 2 years in Cleveland, we won 1 game. The next year we draft Baker Mayfield, and he's been part of this turnaround, including winning a playoff game against their hated rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So certainly there's a lot of love still in Cleveland from a big section of the fan base for Baker. So I think he wanted to express gratitude, but there was also a little hidden meaning in there. I think he was trying to make sure he could be a little bit passive aggressive with the team, trying to make them make a decision so that he could either have them fall back in love with him and really open their arms up and wrap themselves around Baker, or kind of start the process of getting him traded to somewhere he wanted to go. And it turns out that he wanted to go to the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, look, that was Joe Thomas. And as we bring in Sheil Kapadia, I'll just say this, Sheil. Look, when history, I think, especially Browns history, I don't think history will remember Baker Mayfield as some clown with the Cleveland Browns. Not there. Like, he's a guy, maybe he'll be remembered as the bridge guy, because for a long time before Baker, it was a parade of quarterbacks. None of whom was particularly impressive. Nobody was able to get him a playoff victory, and Baker Mayfield was a part of a group that got the Browns to the playoffs, and with a victory in Pittsburgh over their biggest rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's just remember, like, as we, it's easy just to kind of jump on Baker and pile on, and oh yeah, nobody wants him and he's not that good. But in Cleveland, he does have a significant part of recent Browns history. And maybe that says more about recent Browns history than it does Baker. That being said, it does mean something. Do you agree with that? Not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's right. So much we focus on, did they win a championship or did they not win a championship? But when you're a fan of a franchise, like what you remember is where you were, the memories you had during like the great moments with that franchise. And you just mentioned it. I mean, for Browns fans, it's kind of been few and far between. And so they can look at it and say, man, when we drafted this guy number 1 overall, we thought he was going to be here for a decade. We thought that he was going to lead us to multiple Super Bowls. That didn't happen. But you know what? There are going to be Browns fans who say, remember when we went to that Steelers-Browns playoff game and, the Steelers have just been beating up on us forever. And we went in there and we beat them, or we watched that game together. Like that stuff absolutely is meaningful. And so I think that the franchise, the past couple of years has been different than it was previously. Now they're going in obviously a different direction. But yeah, I think there will be some positive memories for Browns fans during the Baker Mayfield era.
Okay, now I feel like I've been too positive, Sheil. So now let's get to the negative stuff, and that is with Baker and his trade market. If there's a trade market at all, 1, what do you think it is, and 2, what's a good fit for Baker Mayfield?
A lot of the dominoes have fallen now. So a lot of this comes down to timing. I mean, if the Browns started the offseason knowing they were going to trade Baker Mayfield, the compensation they would have gotten back is different than what they might get back now. And so now you look around the league, I see 2 teams. I mean, I see the Seattle Seahawks and the Carolina Panthers. Those are the 2 teams who really have no answer at starting quarterback right now, who could potentially be interested. To me, I can just envision Pete Carroll and John Schneider bringing Baker Mayfield in, saying this guy's got a chip on his shoulder. He's been beat up. He's going to fit our culture. We're going to run the football anyway. We've got 2 good wide receivers. So a move like that could potentially make sense. But really, it comes down to those 2 teams. And so the compensation that the Browns would potentially get back. I mean, I look at Carson Wentz getting a 3rd-round pick and then another 3rd-round pick that could turn into a 2nd. And I say, Sam Darnold got a 2nd-round pick last offseason. You would think Baker Mayfield would be sort of in that neighborhood, but at the same time, it's just different because the market's different now. The teams that need a quarterback are different now. And so the Browns might not be able to get that type of return for trading Mayfield, given where we are in the NFL calendar.
I'm going to go big picture with you on this. I started talking with Michael Smith about this a couple of days ago, and I said, hey, have we gotten it wrong? And he said we haven't gotten it wrong. And my point was, all of these teams are talking about, hey, we need a quarterback, and they're going all in. We see the Browns and guaranteeing $230 million to Deshaun Watson, 49ers last year, multiple draft picks, draft capital going up to get Trey Lance, Matthew Stafford, to the Rams, multiple draft picks. Again, now he's got a big contract. Is it possible still to win in the NFL, to win a championship with, let's say, a good quarterback, but not a superstar? Roster is fortified in all areas. Your quarterback is not great. Let's say it's your Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, somewhere between 11 and 16, those quarterbacks. Can you win that way too?
You can win in a given year. We've seen that. I don't think you can sustain success that way. And so if you're a GM or a coach and you say, we don't just want to win get to the Super Bowl next year. We want to be in this thing for 5 to 7 years. That doesn't mean you're going to be winning the Super Bowl or getting to the Super Bowl all those years, but you're in the mix. You're playing in the divisional round. Maybe you're making it to the championship round. I mean, history has just shown us, unless you have one of these guys that can elevate the rest of your roster, that can make up for other mistakes for players on the roster or weaknesses on the roster, it's just really hard to sustain that success. I mean, look at the recent teams we've seen who've tried to, not tried to do it that way, but have done it that way. And the 49ers got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. And what did they do? They evaluated where they were and they said, we need to upgrade. There might be a limited ceiling with Garoppolo. We need to go up and take a big swing for Trey Lance. You could even look at the Rams a few years ago, right? They get to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. And then what did they do? A couple of years later, they said, all right, our ceiling is going to be limited with a quarterback of that caliber. We need someone who is going to be better than that, give us a higher ceiling, and they make the big move for Matthew Stafford. So I think right now, I would say you got to swing for the fences at quarterback. You're not always going to get there, but I think a lot of organizations watched that Bills-Chiefs playoff game and said, do we have a dude in the building who is capable of playing in that game, or do we not? And if we don't, that's priority number one for this offseason. So I don't blame them. I think you have to take those swings.
I'm glad you brought up that game. I have something I want to ask you about that. And if I forget, which I might, remind me, say, hey, you wanted to ask me something about that. You wanted to ask me about that Bills-Chiefs playoff game. But before I get there and ask you that question, because that was, I thought that was a significant game. I felt a shift there, but I felt the shift in a different direction. I'll get to that in a second. But I do want to ask you this. Okay, so let me push back a little bit on this quarterback thing. All right, so the 49ers, yeah, they made a move for Trey Lance, but they were just in the NFC Championship game this year. I know Garoppolo didn't do well down the stretch, but they were in the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo in a 10-point lead, and I'm not sure, you tell me, I'm not sure if I blame Garoppolo more for blowing that 10-point lead or Kyle Shanahan. So with Jimmy Garoppolo, you were in a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game in a 4-year span. I'm not sure you need, do you really need to go out and spend all that capital on a big-time quarterback?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would say they were more the exception than the rule. So I think it's possible. I don't think it's the best way to build it. So I think you look at what the 49ers had going for them. One is they have a offensive play caller or schemer or coach or however you want to phrase it, who has shown an ability to make the whole greater than the sum of the parts. He really knows how to maximize the quarterback's ability. He's shown an ability to do that over and over again. And so those coaches exist. I mean, we could probably name a handful of them right now. And so if you have that type of coach, then you could at least think about it. I mean, you always want to take the swing on the great quarterback, but you can say, we can be a little bit patient. We don't have to do that right away. And the other thing is, I mean, they just have some legitimate blue chip talent in the primes of their career. I mean, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams. I mean, these are three guys who are arguably, I mean, they're all pro caliber players. And so I think their roster is in a pretty interesting spot too. And that's not to mention their defense that has played well too. So it's not impossible. Yeah, you could have a 3, 4, 5-year stretch, but if you're kind of building it from scratch, to me, that would be the harder way to do it. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks who are great, and you look at their coach and you go, all right, coach isn't that great. Look at the rest of the roster. All right, roster's not that good. And then you say, oh, they're playing in the AFC Championship again. I mean, they're kind of like the erasers. When you find Patrick Mahomes, I mean, think of all the stuff you could screw up when you have Patrick Mahomes. And guess what? The next 10 years, like you're probably going to at least be playing in the second round of the playoffs. And so to me, that's why I understand it when these teams go crazy and try to find that quarterback.
Now, I know some franchises around the league very well, particularly Philadelphia and Seattle. How about Philadelphia? Does Philadelphia have one of those quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts? Are you sure yet, or you just need to see another season or two before you can figure out what his ceiling is?
Yeah, I don't think they're sure because I don't know that it was them, turning down the Russell Wilsons and Deshaun Watsons this offseason. I think it might have been vice versa, where they kind of caught wind that maybe those guys weren't going to be a possibility. So I think from an intangible perspective, they love Jalen Hurts. I mean, in the building, I think work ethic, the way he connects with teammates, his demeanor, his ability to be coached hard, take criticism, like they're confident that whatever the ceiling is for Jalen Hurts, he's going to reach that ceiling because he's wired the right way. I just don't think that they know that ceiling is that high. And he's got stuff to work on as a passer. I think that playoff game they had against the Bucs last year, they really couldn't move the ball through the air. He is a gifted runner. Their run game was very good. And so I think they're kind of in wait and see mode. They're saying, all right, we didn't make a move this offseason. We've got 3 first-round picks. We'll ride with Jalen Hurts in 2021. We'll revisit this next season. If he comes out, improves, and has a great season, great. We'll continue to roll with Jalen Hurts. If he goes backwards or stays stagnant, well, we might have some draft capital to work with, and we might be looking in a different direction. So they're kind of in this middle tier of NFL team where I don't think anyone would consider them a Super Bowl contender next year. You wouldn't consider them among the worst teams in the NFL. They're probably going to hover around 7, 8, or 9 wins next season, and it all comes down to kind of how much Hurts can develop next year.
I know Hurts has tremendous composure. I just think about him in Washington when that crappy stadium fell apart. and he just was able to do a little electric slide, just kind of, and then pose for pictures and Sheil the letter, and then write a letter after that. I mean, that was great. That was probably the most impressive sequence I've seen from Jalen Hurts. That's the one I saw all season.
I love those little moments because it was so natural. Yeah, I would have been like, panic mode, or railing falling down, people falling down. Then he poses, and then just to stick it to the rival Washington football team, he writes the letter. You guys need to get your stuff together because you almost injured me, and we're about to go to the playoffs here. So yeah, I thought that was a standout moment for sure.
All right, so I didn't forget the Buffalo-Kansas City game. So that game, and just in full disclosure, I had really started a war with Buffalo fans the week before because they crushed the Patriots, and which I expected. I thought the Bills would win that game. I didn't think they beat them by 30 points, but they just beat them down. And after that game, I said, well, the Bills still aren't that good. Oh boy, so I heard from the Bills Mafia. So I was rooting hard for whatever, by any means necessary. Just Kansas City, win this game. Win this game. I cannot deal with this team in an AFC Championship game. But that being said, football-wise, look, obviously Josh Allen was brilliant in that game, as was Patrick Mahomes. But what stood out to me, Sheil, was that, your old school 3-4, 4-3, whatever your base defense is, that's out the window. Your big, lumbering, 285, 290-pound defensive end who sets the edge. Okay, that's great. Those guys, what you really need is some instinctive, hybrid defensive players to deal with those quarterbacks. So I didn't come out of that thinking, hey, every team needs a quarterback like this. I'm thinking, you guys better get some guys who can play like the Isaiah Simmons, what he was billed to be coming out of Clemson. He can play some safety, some corner, some linebacker. He can rush. And I don't know if that's all true, but that's the idea. So I think that may be as important, if not more important, than finding the franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I have a rule for teams as they approach their offseason. When you're signing a free agent to a lot of money, when you're making a big trade, when you're drafting a guy in the first round, employ the 2-minute rule. What does the 2-minute rule mean? That means in the last 2 minutes of a close game, is that guy on the field or is that guy on the sideline? And so you could give me the best run stuffing defensive tackle in the history of the NFL. If that guy can't rush the passer, I'll still take him on my team, but I'm not investing those resources into him. It's just what you mentioned, a downhill thumper linebacker who's going to lead the league in tackles against the run. Okay, he's got a place on your roster, but you can't invest significant resources into that type of player anymore. And so I think you're absolutely right there. Now, with the hybrid players, I laugh at coaches sometimes because they'll look at a player on film and they're doing their draft prep and they're, oh my gosh, I'm going to use this guy. Like you mentioned with Isaiah Simmons, he's going to blitz on third down. He's going to cover the tight end when we need him to. Hey, he can carry the slot receiver. And the guy gets into camp and then it's week 3. And what does the story come out? Isaiah, they're having a tough time figuring out how to use. Wait, Isaiah, you look at the snap count. Isaiah Simmons played 10 snaps last week. What's going on? So it always looks better to them on film. So they always have positionless players. Just chill, okay? I know every NFL coach thinks they're a genius, but if a cornerback's a cornerback, like if it's a good cornerback, you don't have to overthink it. Just play him at cornerback. So you're right. When it works, like Derwin James of the Chargers, oh man, that's beautiful. This guy's doing a different thing on every snap. He impacts the game, but I do think they get a little carried away sometimes, kind of maybe overestimating their own abilities as coaches to figure out ways to put these players in positions to succeed.
That's a good point. Hey, last thing I have for you, we're talking about free agents and, hey, don't sign this guy, don't invest resources in that one. Tell me a couple of guys, just from your perspective, hey, you've been watching all the free agent signings, covering all these things. Is there a guy or two who's still out there available and you're saying, wait a minute, why? He's so good, I can't believe somebody hasn't scooped him up yet. Who's a guy or two like that?
Man, there's one guy that stands above everybody else, and that's Tyrique Matthew. I mean, we were just talking about safety play. Can a guy be there in the final 2 minutes?
You.
I mean, before free agency, I'm going, he's going to be the first guy signed as soon as this, negotiation period is underway. I felt like every fan base in the country was saying, let's go get Tyrique Matthew. And he's still out there. Now, he's 30 years old. He's stayed relatively healthy. Maybe he is one of those guys who you have to have the right coach, because you don't want to just put him in one place and, be stagnant about it. I mean, you want him to be able to use his instincts. But man, I can't figure out why we're this deep into free agency and Tyrique Matthew does not have a home on a contender at the top of the safety market. And so that's kind of the guy I really have my eye on here as we figure out what's going to happen next in free agency. And then the other guy is Jadeveon Clowney. He's like a free agent every year. Some years it's been like, why is he out there? But last year, I mean, he had nine sacks, I think, played well for the Browns. And so I'm sure he's looking for a better payday this offseason. Maybe that's not coming to him. Maybe teams are saying, we'll give you a 1-year deal, but we don't want to lock in to a long-term contract with you. But man, a contending team like the Rams, they lose Von Miller. Well, were they going to look at somebody like Jadeveon Clowney, a team like the Chiefs? I know they wanted to improve their pass rush. Those are guys that could really swing things, in my opinion, for a contending team.
I'm with you on Tyrann Mathieu all the way. As a matter of fact, and not that Justin Reed is a bad player, he's certainly not, but if you're the Chiefs, why do you go out and sign him rather than just keeping your own guy who is just really just a heady playmaker? That's what it is. It's like defense is now, you're not a great defense because you rank, first, second, or third in points allowed. You're a great defense if you've got like 3 or 4 playmakers just at any time who can just change a game. And he's one of those guys. I just don't understand why they didn't bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, you always look at money first, I guess, the top of that safety market. I know some of these guys thought maybe they're getting $16 or $17 million a year. That would be the top of it. Justin Reed, I think, came in at $10 million. So maybe they thought Matthew was looking for that big payday. It hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, if you're a contending team, he's a leader. He's got those instincts. You're so right. I mean, you're not going to be forcing like 6-3 and outs on these quarterbacks nowadays, most of the time, unless you're really an elite defense. But do you have somebody who an offensive coordinator sits down on Monday or Tuesday and goes, we need to know where that guy is on every snap and account for him. And Tyrique Matthew is that type of player.
Hey, Sheil, I appreciate it. I'll tell you, not only will we continue to read you in The Athletic, but I don't know who came up with Birds with Friends. What a great name for a podcast. So we'll be checking that out too. Are you going to take credit for it? Do you get the royalties on Birds with Friends?
I'll give my co-hosts Bo Wolf and Zach Berman credit, or I'll never hear the end of it if I try to steal the spotlight on that one.
Well, hey, listen, you contribute to the podcast. It's a great one. Thanks for taking some time with us. I hope you come back and talk some more football with us as we get closer to the season.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.